Grow your career with a Master of Agribusiness degree from Kansas State University. Using the latest technology in distance education, we strive to deliver a world-class degree to a global audience in the food, animal health, and agriculture industries. We are dedicated to ensuring flexibility throughout the program, offering completion from anywhere and a variety of course schedules to work on your time. We focus on having a direct connection to the current professional landscape with industry experienced instructors preparing coursework with immediate applicability. During the 2.5-year program, you will have the opportunity to network with your fellow classmates to build professional connections around the world. 3 start dates are offered at multiple campus locations. Learn more about the award-winning program and find out how to apply by contacting us today.
Congressman Dan Newhouse from Washington's 4th District, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
For starters, can you tell us a little bit about your district and the kinds of agriculture in it?
Well, Washington's 4th Congressional District is it's really a very interesting place agriculturally speaking. We have a wide variety of crops that are grown in the state, but in the 4th District, which is the central 1/3 of the state essentially. So I'm a hop grower. That's on one end of the spectrum of many people in the country. That's an unusual crop, although becoming more known by a lot of folks. We raise a lot of apples, any kind of tree fruit you can think of almost, and that we can adapt to our climate. So cherries, pears, apricots, nectarines, peaches, lots of things like that. I also live in a wine grape producing region. So that's a very important crop to our area. Livestock is huge as well. We have a lot of dairy producers, a lot of livestock producers, even a few sheep producers in central Washington. So I'm sure when you raise 300 different crops, I'm going to leave somebody out. But we have just a lot of variety in the kinds of things that we raise in Washington State.
Now, you served in Washington State Legislature for a number of years, but most recently you were the director of the state's Department of Agriculture.
Yeah,
What was that experience like?
As Director of Agriculture, you are, and get this, the face of agriculture, a scary thought, I know. You get to represent the agricultural industry locally and state level, nationally, even internationally. So it was a tremendous opportunity, just a huge privilege for me to be able to do that, and I enjoyed it immensely. Just as varied as the crops are in our state, so are the issues that agriculture faces, from water to labor to pesticide chemical uses, trade, which is a big part of the economy in Central Washington, agricultural research, all those kinds of things that when you are a specialty crop state like we are, that we really feel like we have to make our voice as loud as possible, because we're not, the corn, soybean, cotton producers of the country that have a lot of horsepower behind them. So we work especially hard to make sure our issues are represented.
So after spending a few years in your state's administration, what was it that made you want to get back onto the legislative side of things and run for Congress?
Well, several things. I got to tell you, I've been interested in public service for a long time. I kind of grew up in a very political family. My father served in the state legislature for over 3 decades in the state of Washington. So public service has always been something that I've seen as a high calling, and something I've been very interested in for a long time. After serving in the state legislature and then in the governor's cabinet, I got to be involved in a lot of things that had far-reaching implications, decisions that were very important to the people in my state. And so it just kind of came together when an opportunity to run for Congress and serve the people of the 4th District and the state of Washington on a national level. It seemed like an opportunity that I thought that with, if I could just say humbly, with the experiences that I have been fortunate enough to have had, that I could bring some value to the table in representing the people of my district.
Now, you are a farmer. Do you think, when this country was started, farmers played a big role in it, but they've since dwindled a little bit. Do you think it's important for more farmers to start playing a role in the legislative process and specifically become elected to Congress?
You know, of course, farmers haven't dwindled. The number of farmers have, absolutely. You're right. This used to be a very agrarian country. I don't know if it was the majority, but a large number of people in state legislatures and members of Congress were from the agricultural industry. Now our U.S. population, I think it's less than 2% are farmers involved in agriculture. So you've hit on one of the challenges that face all of us, whether you're from Kansas, from Idaho, from Washington, Florida, it doesn't matter. Agriculture, our voice, we have to work extra hard to make sure that we're heard in the halls of state legislatures or the halls of the U.S. Congress. And so it's a huge challenge, and one that will continue to face us. Agricultural challenges. Our urban cousins don't always understand what we're trying to do and why we need to do the things that we do in order to produce our nation's food and fiber and fuel. So it's an ongoing educational process, and one we need more farmers involved in, frankly. We need to have everybody step up and help get our message out.
So as a farmer, what are some of the goals that you have on the House Agriculture Committee?
Well, as I told you, our state has a lot of varied interests when it comes to agriculture. We're very trade dependent, and so anything that we can do to increase the opportunities for producers from the state of Washington as it relates to exports and opening global markets is certainly a priority of mine. And there's several opportunities out there, fortunately, for us this year. Labor is another issue, whether it's immigration reform or even immediately now that the disputes on our West Coast ports, which is having a tremendous impact on our ability to move we can produce all the goods we want, but if we can't get them to our customers, that's a huge problem. And so that's another priority. Other things that would impact our ability to move those goods across the seas, whether it be politically motivated or non-scientific kinds of trade barriers, is something that we need to work on as well. Research is huge. Like I said, we're specialty crop producers, and continuing emphasis and resources into ongoing research keeps us at the cutting edge of production, and it keeps us competitive. So those are the kinds of things that I'll be focused on as a member of the Agriculture Committee.
What about your other committees? What are they, and how do they relate to your constituents and to your district?
You know, actually, as a freshman, I think I did really well in my committee assignments. So agriculture is huge. It's number one economic engine of my district. Natural resources is the other committee that I serve on, which is just a tremendously important committee for the issues that we will have jurisdiction over, in public lands and water and different kinds of things that impact the fourth congressional district. And then another one is the Science, Space, and Technology Committee. We have the Hanford Nuclear Reservation in my district. We have the Pacific Northwest National Laboratory. Tremendous impacts and the importance of the issues that will be coming before that committee. I think I'll be able to help serve my district very well because of those assignments.
Now, you mentioned some of your goals inside of agriculture. What about outside the scope of agriculture? What are some things you'd really like to get accomplished as a congressman?
Well, several things, actually. I mentioned the immigration reform issue. That's kind of an agricultural issue from a lot of people's perspective, but it's even bigger than that. It's a huge importance to our nation as a whole, and so that's one of my priorities. Looking at the fiscal picture that we as a nation are faced with, balancing our budget. We have an $18 trillion deficit today, which to me is unsustainable, and we need to make sure that we put policies into place that turn our fiscal picture into a better outcome for our children and our grandchildren. So that's another priority of mine as well. I know that health care issues in this country are huge. It's very personal, a person's health, your family's health, and health care. And that's something that I've heard loud and clear from my constituents, that they want a system in place that works for them, is more market-driven. They have the choices that they need in order to make those decisions that are important for them and their families. So that's another high priority of mine. So there's lots of varied interests out there that are priorities of mine, all agricultural, but certainly they are all very important to the state of Washington and the United States.
Congressman Dan Newhouse from Washington's 4th District, thank you for joining us.